A motion has been presented to Zimbabwe's parliament to begin the impeachment process against President Robert Mugabe that looks set to bring his domination of a country he has ruled since independence nearly 40 years ago to an ignominious end. In the past week, the 93-year-old has clung on in the face of an army takeover that shattered his authority and expulsion from his own ruling ZANU-PF party, which also told him to leave power. Thousands of people have joined mass protests against him, and calls to resign have come from many sides, including from the ruling party's favorite to succeed him, Emmerson Mnangagwa. The people of Zimbabwe have spoken with one voice, and it is my appeal to President Mugabe that he should take heed of this clarion call to resign so that the country can move forward and preserve his legacy, Mr. Mnangagwa said in a statement. Parliament Speaker Jacob Mudida said he received a motion to impeach and politicians from both houses would adjourn to a hotel to start the proceedings in a joint sitting on Tuesday afternoon, local time. Thousands of people demonstrated outside Parliament urging his resignation. Since the crisis began, Mr. Mugabe has been mainly confined to his lavish blue roof residence in the capital. Mr. Mugabe led Zimbabwe's liberation war and is hailed as one of post-colonial Africa's founding fathers and a staunch supporter of the drive to free neighboring South Africa from apartheid in 1994. But many say he has damaged Zimbabwe's economy, democracy and judiciary by staying in power for too long, and has used violence to crush perceived political opponents. The country faces a foreign exchange payments crisis and roaring inflation. South African President Jacob Zuma and his Angolan counterpart, João Lourenço, will travel to Zimbabwe this week in a fresh sign of diplomatic pressure, South Africa's state broadcaster said. Mr. Mugabe held his weekly cabinet meeting on Tuesday, but only 5 ministers and the Attorney General turned up. 17 others opted to attend a meeting to plan the impeachment. In the draft impeachment motion, ZANU-PF said Mr. Mugabe was a source of instability, flouting the rule of law and presiding over an unprecedented economic tailspin. The origin of Mr. Mugabe's sudden downfall lies in rivalry between members of Zimbabwe's ruling elite over who will succeed him, rather than popular protests against his rule. The army seized power because Mr. Mugabe sacked Mr. Mnangagwa as vice president earlier this month to clear a path to the presidency for his wife Grace, who is unpopular with many Zimbabweans because of her perceived lavish lifestyle. The former vice president was a key lieutenant to Mr. Mugabe for decades and stands accused of participating in repression against Zimbabweans who challenged the leader. Mr. Mnangagwa said he has fled Zimbabwe because of a threat to his life after being purged from the ruling party. He said he had been in contact with Mr. Mugabe and invited to return, but would not do so until his security could be guaranteed. Mr. Mnangagwa said his desire was to join all Zimbabweans in a new era that would rebuild the economy for the benefit of all.